Hey y'all, HH-BlueDynamite here, the number two Hazbin Blue, back again for another Hazbin video. And in this one, it's essentially something I've been wanting to do for a while since seeing stars of Hell of a Boss Season 2. And I think it was episode 2? I could be wrong. Or 3. No, it was 2. But yes, this is something that kind of occurred to me at some point while watching the episode. And this is pretty much the possibility of presence of Lovecraftian lore. For anyone who doesn't know what this entails, is that there's essentially like this cosmic beings that probably actually does exist in the Hellverse. So this is going to be interesting. Side note, because of how wonky some of these entities' names are, please take my pronunciations with a grain of salt. I'm not too privy with Lovecraft. I just know the basics. In the great expanse of the nether there exists boundless amounts of magnificent phenomenon, the great brilliance of an exploding star, the nimble dance of space dust through a nebula, but once every 1,000 years our corner of reality is treated to an incredible sight from the deep eldritch recesses of the cosmos. The tears of a forgotten colossus begin to fall. Tears made of the hopes and dreams of every living thing that ever came to be. Condensed and sent shooting across the night sky in a dazzling final display. What appears to mortal beings as a meteor shower we can see for what it is. Azathoth's tears. That is me reading from the transcript of Seeing Stars of Stolas speaking to little Octavia, explaining what Azathoth's tears are. And the fact that he mentioned a forgotten colossus, it pretty much emphasized who this giant colossus is, and that is Azathoth. Azathoth is what I could pretty much gather is like the origin of everything in the Cthulhu mythos. That's what I'm getting at from all of this. He's the thing that all of that exists. From, again, Cthulhu to, I think, the King in Yellow. I'm not sure what his actual name is, but I'm thinking about the baby in yellow, but that's neither here nor there. But the one thing I'm more remembering about Azathoth is that he is known, well, for one thing, he is known as the Idiot God, which, well, that's kind of insulting to probably like the grand deity of the Cthulhu mythos. But he is also referred to as the Sleeping Chaos or the Blind Dreamer. From understanding what this entails, is that our reality is this thing's dream. At least that's how the mythos goes. Not sure if it works in here, but yes, that's some existential crisis there. But that's why it's cosmic horror. But the fact that this thing probably exists in the world of Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss, that really makes me further think about other Lovecraftian lore. And, as mentioned before, for anyone who isn't familiar with the Cthulhu mythos, which might be a slight shocker, I guess, even though, like, I have bare knowledge of the Cthulhu mythos. But I mean, I know some level of it, but it's essentially this cosmic horror world created from the mind of H.P. Lovecraft. He pretty much, I could be wrong on this, but he pretty much pioneered cosmic horror. And again, going back with, the existence of Azathoth and Hellverse, is that this might paint a different light for specific characters coming up, mostly with Hazbin Hotel. and might explain a few things. But I will be interested to see if there is other Lovecraftian creatures that could like pop up. And I'm not going to attempt to say any names, except maybe one that's coming up. Cause it took me a while to even like understand. You could like, well, granted, Cthulhu could go with any other pronunciations, but do you realize how hard it is to pronounce these darn creature names? Much sum it up. As you can see here, Leviathan is part of the Cthulhu mythos. And the fact that Leviathan is a member of the Princes of Hell, very much just the idea of that is going to be very interesting indeed, especially what I'm about to show you. And as you can see right here, is that I feel that Leviathan could be related to the Von Eldritch. And hello, they're called the Von Eldritch. Eldritch, when you hear something like that, if you're privy to the Cthulhu mythos, that's the first thing you're gonna pop up is this cosmic horror type stuff. And I do remember when I first saw Helsa in the pilot, she did make me think, oh, okay, she's a clear Lovecraftian inspired demon. And I think I just mentioned this, I don't remember if I did or not, but honestly feel that the Von Eldritch might be directly related to Leviathan, which means that they are a family related to a Prince of Hell, which would explain that familiar connection that the Von Eldritch does with Lucifer and his family. Whether or not that Frederick, which is the father, the patriarch of the Von Eldritch, is Leviathan himself, or is maybe the son of Leviathan, which not sure if he's going to get a name change. I remember this Hazbin Hotel project, which unfortunately doesn't have a fanfic yet, but a lot of like love and care got into it, and I think it's called Journey to the Light, if anyone has heard of that. But just the idea that, because again, well, okay, the Ring of Envy is very possibly oceanic themed. And maybe, just maybe, that in the Ring of Envy, we might see more Lovecraftian monster Cthulhu inspired demons. We didn't exactly get one that I'd imagine this one particular female demon, her son, who appeared in Western Energy. I feel like they're from the Envy ring. I could be wrong, but that's just my thoughts on this. Now, here's the thing with this whole ordeal. I am probably not the first one to even get to make these connections due to the fact that there are I've seen thumbnails of other videos that clearly make the same connections between, Azathoth's, the existence of Cthulhu mythos monsters and connections with the Von Elders, because it's kind of clear, especially with their name, they're inspired by Lovecraftian creatures. But then through research, I learned of another figure from Abrahamic. I think it's Abrahamic. I think is Jewish belief still part of the Abrahamic religion? You guys will see what I'm about to talk about. But Leviathan isn't the only biblical figure that appeared in the Cthulhu mythos. Lilith. Lilith does exist in the Cthulhu mythos. She was birthed. Oh dear Lord, here's the Lovecraftian creature that I can't pronounce. Um, I'm sure anyone who is privy to this could probably decipher what I'm about to say. Nyarlathotep. All I got is Hotep, and that's like, I think that's the Egyptian thing. But yes, this creature I just named is the father of Cthulhu mythos Lilith. And this does make me think, is it possible? Because there's a theory that Alistair is like half demon. In life, he's half demon or something like that. What if it's not Alistair though? What if it was Lilith? Lilith is like probably one of the oldest sinners in hell. Considering in the story of Lilith, in terms of Jewish lore, was that she was supposed to be set up as Adam's wife, and in the Cthulhu mythos, Lilith does have a lover, but it's somebody else. But she is old, y'all. She is really old. Sometimes we kind of forget about that. So what if, because there are humans in the Cthulhu mythos where there are descendants of one of these creatures. One probably escapes me at the moment, but it does happen. And maybe Lilith could be one of them in the sense of Hellverse that might give her leeway of her position in hell, and that she's more than just a sinner demon. She is a descendant of these creatures, of these cosmic gods. That would be interesting. And she is not the only one that might have answers to specific origins. Alastor. It's still a bit of a mystery as to how Alastor gained all, like, when he first arrived in hell, he already had this immense power. Now, I'm actually under the idea that what Vaggie entailed in Cautionary Tale was more about word of mouth. In that she just heard the rumors, she just heard the stories behind how Alistair got to where he is. We don't necessarily know the actual story behind Alistair's rampage or his, overrunning overlords. But going off on that idea that he somehow acquired this power beyond what mortals are capable of, maybe somehow, some way, he garnered some ability of the eldritch entities. That will explain a few things, if we're being perfectly clear. But again, all of this is just mostly speculation, considering that we haven't really got into the whole thing yet. But this is a thing that kind of like tickled at my brain a little bit, and I just wanted to share it. That's pretty much it, y'all, on this video. I wasn't sure, like, I'm not, again, I'm not the first one to pretty much get to this idea upon hearing, like, this forgotten colossus, Azathoth's tears. It's further world building. I think there are some people who didn't like the episode of Seeing Stars, but the one thing I do like is just a little bit more world building, and you got that with Stolas and the Azathoth's tears. So I really cannot wait to see if anything comes out of this, whether it be in Hellverse or hopefully in Hazbin Hotel, with the things that I just mentioned between the Von Eldritch. Because they do, even before, the whole thing, back into the pilot, when I learned more about Helsa and her folk, clear Lovecraftian inspiration. The Von Eldritch, Lilith, Alastor. I can't wait. Not sure if there is going to be a trailer tomorrow or what. I'm waiting on bated breath. But until then, y'all, have a blessed day, and please stay tuned for more.